Good evening, everybody. Happy Tuesday. We are October the 8th. We are in fall season, and we're in Sacramento, Albertson Clay or Santa Ana, and it's 96 degrees in October, so it's pretty crazy. And we got a great show. This is episode 36. Think about that, 36 episodes, bro. Like, we started this back in January. And, this topic came up several times. Albert and I were talking, and, there's a saying that I didn't make it up, but I stole it, but I use it all the time. And I use it a lot because I really had to look at my life differently. And I look at my life in stories now, and parables is how I look at my life. And it allows me to frame my world a little differently and not be obtuse about things and be very, very structured. And so this idea about new levels bring new devils. It was fascinating when I first heard this concept is because, the old version of me, which is still inside of me, by the way, I wake up with them every morning. My stress management level sucked. I did not know how to handle stress, whether it's financial stress, whether it's stress from work, whether it's personal stress because of things I never dealt with, emotional stress. Is I was a weak man with stress because I didn't know how to handle it. I got very emotional about things. And I think that's why this concept of new levels bring new devils allowed me to structure and frame it in a way where I could comprehend what that meant, as opposed to saying, oh, fuck, this happened again, like this victim mindset. So it allowed me to get out of the victim mindset. And what it did, it allowed me to look at this challenge, at this new thing in my life, this new decision I've made, this new level. It allowed me to frame it so that I could embrace whatever challenges came my way. So when Albert and I discussed it last week, I thought it was a great topic. So we're going to dive in a little bit, and we're excited to be here.
Yeah, this was a fun one. Like you said, you've been talking about this for a while, and I think we wanted to really branch into this a little bit more because everyone goes through this in some form or another. The word evolve gets thrown a lot. I think because we're all searching for something within ourselves, and we're trying to figure out what that is. And when I was doing my own personal reflection, when you told me about this on Thursday, I was kind of questioning it over the last couple of days, and really just trying to pick apart, like, these new levels are here. I'm aware of that, but what about the devil aspect of it? I was kind of questioning it because I wasn't really sure, like, is this something that is just a figment of my imagination? Am I creating some of this stuff just because it's based off of old devils that I was dealing with? Or is this really, truly something that is new? It's completely different. And so we were kind of chit-chatting right before about this too. And I think I want to start off with that rabbit hole and expand on it a little bit more because you talk about it all the time when you meet a new client or whenever you just interact with someone day to day. Is like, you have to handle your own shit as soon as possible, and you have to do it in a way that is your way and not just someone else's, because you can also fake it till you make it a little bit too much, where you build this this false ego because you're stroking it to evolve, right? And that could even be addressing an issue that is just a symptom of it too. So I wanted to explore that right now too, and just get a little bit, hear more about your opinion about when you do hit this new level to yourself. You feel like you passed by something that you've been holding on to for a while. When you think that you have crossed over into this paradise, I guess, for a second, do you ever look back on your old self and figure out, like, okay, I've actually made it? And then how do you confront that next thing, that next obstacle?
Yeah, great point. So I think there's two answers to this. Let me address the old devil part. I like stories. So I remember, very, very simple. So last year when the book came out, so I published a book, From Darkness to Redemption. And as I was writing it in May, and you're in flow state and you're writing and I'm getting it all out, when I was so dialed in, nothing else mattered. The decision was made. I was dialed in. This is what we're doing. And then as time passed, when the book was complete and I was editing it, making the book, make book cover, and then it was ready to publish, that's where the old devil came in, which was self-doubt, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome, things like, why are you doing this? No one ever wrote a book in your family. No one's going to read it. That's an old devil. Okay. But what happened is when it was published, the new devil that came up the level was that this now new, we'll call it new fame, this new enlightened, this new version of me that people saw to where they heard my story, but now there's something tangible. The new devil was hate, haters. The new devil was, who do you think you are? The new devil was all of these I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting people to react this way. And the new devil was also this ability to where, oh, now that I wrote this, you can't take it back. Like, you can't take back what was written, right? So now the new devil is, how are you going to handle it when family, like, for example, when you read it, when my mom read it, I wasn't sure what was good. So this new level was, okay, now there's a personal responsibility that I have to own what I said. And that new devil was super in my face of, okay, are you going to cower to what you want them to hear? Or are you going to elevate and say, this is who you really are? So I was confronted with this new part of me, which is the responsibility part, which is the self-ownership part. And that old devil of self-sabotage, I had to put him to the side, because this new devil responsibility of enlightenment, of pushing forward, this new self was elevating, because now I'm an author, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker. There's a whole nother level of responsibility that I was not prepared for. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, and I feel like that's a lot of the idea of like imposter syndrome kind of pops up too. There's all this stuff where when you put yourself out there in the world, one, you can give a little more context too in there. I guess it was last year, so you'd already kind of proven, you've already built some rapport, credibility and stuff, but there's still that hesitation with some people where it's like, is this person really who he says he is, you know? And that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And it does at the same time. And like, it shouldn't matter in terms of listening to the noise, but also recognizing that it's important to build like a following, build people to want to understand and listen to what you have to say. And I think that's two really critical aspects to build the context of what you were talking about last year, where there is going to be doubts. There is going to be all this stuff that pops in. And I think for me, when you were talking about it too, I was just thinking of the book Outwitting the Devil. And I know he makes it about like he's having a conversation with the devil, right? But I interpret it almost as he's talking with himself, you know? And once he made that decision, Napoleon Hill makes that decision to write the book, right? And get out of his own way and just ask for the things when he needs to ask for help, and also complete the mission that he needs to. There's something very freeing in that devil that when you actually confront it, it's actually your friend. I think this is something we can explore too, is how can you share a little bit about, I guess I'll make it on me first. When I first decided to build on my character and start to dissect what was really going on, where I couldn't be emotionally available for you guys, I think that was very freeing, was establish it as a year of growth, a year of me wanting to actually feel the emotions that I was bottling up for so long, that I think I finally felt it once I was in that relationship and it broke 2 years ago, right? And so that allowed for me to unleash this person that wanted to come out, you know? And we talk about all the time, like when I actually could let that power loose a little bit more, I could feel myself wanting to feel that connection. And I think that's that devil of not being sure of what that would look like, and being uncomfortable with being vulnerable, being uncomfortable with sharing what was actually on my mind, was allowed for me to have this connection with you, and eventually led us to each other to actually have a good solid foundation. I think that first step, no, I think not only just acknowledging but actually accepting is what keeps a lot of us at bay and comfortable in the same devils that we deal with every single time. And we think we're evolving just because we're doing, but we're actually not confronting what's in front of us.
Yeah, I love what you just said, because you brought what came to mind for me is when you talked about the intimacy part. I think the real devil that you and I had to confront. I'll take me for example, is there's an old version of me when I would talk to our family that would come out. I think I was very defensive. I think I was very judgmental at times. I think I was very in my ego of wanting to be heard and not hear. And so the new devil I had to deal with was shutting up. So the devil was me. The devil was me. And that part of me had to really surrender. And that new level required this new devil of surrendering so that I could let go. And then once I was surrender, let go, then I can be vulnerable. And the other new devil was being vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
That was new for me because now that required me having to entrust another person with the information I'm giving them to not be judged, or if I was, how I was going to handle that. So the more that you and I, for example, got to unleash these new devils of communication, of vulnerability, of letting our egos go, of surrendering, that new level was actually going lower within to allow us to free up more of, we'll call it love for the sake of words, to give each other. And I was able to give it more to others as well, because that new level of vulnerability, that new level of ego, letting the ego go, allowed me to be free. Like you said, that freeness, then there became a peace that I didn't know that happened. So most definitely, like, I love what you said, because that was one of the biggest levels that I had to do, was when I finally learned to quote unquote heal that part of me, that wounding, and not keep projecting that on you or anybody else in my life. When that started healing more up, it freed up more vulnerability and entrusted me with the opportunity to just let go. And that new devil was super intimidating. It was very there's a lot of anxiousness involved because I didn't know what to expect. But the evolution has allowed me to trust that even more and more, because I was willing to go down that level and, again, attack that devil.
So when you're trying to put it in this year's perspective, just thinking out of it. So I guess we'll talk about the legacy project, right? You've been speaking in front of people for a while. This was new for us both to take this step, right? That was it was very fun to think about what we wanted to build, etc. When you were first thinking about this at all, was there a sort of expectation that you thought in terms of like how you'd feel putting our intimate details out into the world? Was there anything that you were even curious that was going to come up for you during some of these conversations that you were kind of uneasy about? Like, is there something that you try to do now that you are in this new evolution state that you make sure to implement when you know that there's going to be something uncomfortable in the way?
Yeah, I don't think there's an expectation, but I think what there was there was a vision of what I thought we were going to be doing. So maybe that is a sort of expectation. But here's what I thought. I thought that you and I had going to have a lot of these topics and just really dive into them like piece by piece by piece. And after the first 2 episodes, I realized, whoa, this is going to be a little deeper. Mm-hmm. And I was actually hoping to, if I'm being selfish about this, what I was really hoping also is I guess you call it expectation. I guess it would be expectation. Is that you and I would be able to be even closer, so that I knew at some point in time there were going to be questions you were going to ask. I knew the more we did this, there was going to be a lot more vulnerability that you and I had to really get to some of the root of stuff with the divorce, with what happened in 2019. But I also thought it would be an amazing opportunity for just you and I to really have this solid base to where others could see what we're doing and just be like, wow, that's really interesting. Like, a lot of curiosity. I wanted curiosity to come out of this. And I think what's evolved is more. I think the conversations we've had, some of the guests we've had, I never thought we'd have some of the guests we had on. I've never thought that we'd be talking so intimately and vulnerably, because I think I had this expectation we were going to be good cop, bad cop for a while. but it ended up being just two men just coming together and just really being curious about each other and really being empathetic about the guests we have on, and really find out not what they could give us or what they could supply information of, but how we could support them. And I think that's been really great for me to incorporate in my life. Like, I'm incorporated literally in business. I'm incorporated literally in my relationships. I'm incorporated literally as a father. I'm taking what I'm learning in this open dialogue you and I are having, and I'm actually applying it in a lot of part of my life. What about yourself?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. I think the biggest thing is just like my personal relationships. You can see, like, I know when I can be vulnerable and when I just want to just be there with someone, you know? It's allowed for me to be okay with either way that I want to go, and I don't feel obligated as often to give someone that vulnerability if I don't feel comfortable. I feel like a lot of times it does help in terms of being able to like be comfortable with someone. Even the other day, I was working with a client. There's a tenant there, and he was just awkward, right? Trying to converse with them, but if they don't want to converse back, I think now I've learned and become more mature enough to just accept for whatever it is that they're going through. And not everyone wants to be your friend. And I think that's something I'm learning the last couple of weeks, actually, in particular, is I don't necessarily need to be liked by everyone, you know, and I don't even really need to demand their respect as long as they like acknowledge I'm there. It's like I don't need to search for something like that anymore. It doesn't seem like it's worth the time or the energy to feel like I have to ask or demand of that. It just is or it isn't, and if it isn't, then I just move on, you know. And I think being a young professional, it can be really intimidating to feel like you don't know enough.
Yep.
And then once you overcompensate for that, think you know everything, so you demand that. I know I demanded internally that I needed everyone to like approve of me, you know, and that's something that I feel like is very common for someone in their mid-20s learning how to just exist in the real world, because for so long you're told, and I was actually talking with Nicole about this too, about just how to parent a little bit more and what it would be. I think what I'm learning is not necessarily just telling someone that they're smart, not necessarily telling someone that they're able to do it, but let's try to relive those moments that you were, if you feel like you're doubting them, and then we can dissect, like, okay, why are you doubting yourself right now? And then they can learn. I think a lot of times we want to rob, in good service, we rob someone of their ability to actually change because we want to help them too quickly. And that's like the overbearing parent that kind of kicks in for a lot of people that don't know or think that that's how they should help someone, is just by doing it for them, you know, rather than giving them a couple minutes to figure it out and struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, also I was thinking as we were talking, you know, I think the biggest thing that I've got to learn about this project that we're doing is I've got to learn more about you. Like, I've really got to understand you more. I've got to really relate to you more. Really, like, you are really a mirror of me. And that's allowed me to really open up within, to really look at myself and say, this young man is exactly, I have a blueprint that he doesn't need to follow. And I have another blueprint that he could, at least on his own, see if it works for him, because here's what I did. And I think that organically evolved to where I've seen you elevate. I've seen you really, like, in front of me, like, you're a great, like, your questions are phenomenal. And that's another byproduct is people have really reached out to me, like my buddy Brandon and Carrie, you know, came on the show, and she's like, this was the best, like, our show was the best interviewee show she's ever been in. She's been on hundreds of shows. So I think it really also gave me an understanding that what we're doing is real. Like, it's real. Mm-hmm. And if we could continue just utilizing this platform and every guest we have on, and we don't throw them softballs. We ask them what kind of questions they have, and it's the same question everybody has pretty much, is how we work together and some of the strategies and challenges that we faced. And so I think that's been a real fascinating byproduct of what we're doing that, again, that's helped me really, bro. I had a conversation with someone today that these women have men as children. They have one's 18 and one woman has two twins that are 25 years old. And these men are struggling and they're single moms. And I get to give them a perspective now because of our interaction, of me being a man and what I've experienced. And I just got to ask some questions. I was like, do you know what your son really wants? And they're like, what? I go, he just wants to be heard. He wants to feel respected. He wants to feel like he's capable, and he wants to feel appreciated. Yeah, but I do that. I go, no, you don't. You just didn't do it right now. If you react like that, you're being mama bear. What he wants is he wants to be treated like an adult, and a lot of parents have a hard time letting their kids go. So it's allowed me to have these conversations with others. Again, I remember you asked me a question before. You go, Dad, do you like coaching? I'm like, not really. Men are stubborn and they're selfish and they're egotistical. But every time I get to talk to another person, I get to instill like these wisdom points that I've learned because I failed miserably, and just give people an example of what they could do that could shift, because I've learned with you, like trial and error. I've learned with your sisters. I've learned with even your mom, like how I can be a better man is by I had to really change a lot of my approaches to where it wasn't about me. It was about me being curious and being a servant, and me being someone who wants to learn and wants to hear, as opposed to being right and leading by aggression. So that new devil in my life was actually been a great experience for me.
I had a question about the last part in particular because we were actually talking about it yesterday. Someone brought it up, and I've been pondering about that question for a while in terms of people pleasing versus being of service, right? And I'll put it on to me as I feel rather than them. But so it's been told in many literature that being of service is probably one of the best things you could do for your community, in terms of not just in business, but just as a person, right? If you can change someone's life or help them in any way possible, that brings mutual benefit because I'll get something out of it, and then also I'm helping you, right? So because we both talked about this in terms of people pleasing in general, how do you distinguish people pleasing versus being of a service, and sometimes going above and beyond, whether that was when we were younger and you had to do whatever you could to get a sale in mortgage, like get a loan approved, right? Like, and going above and beyond in that sometimes went into our family time, right? Versus feeling like, oh, I'm doing this for them, for me, if that makes sense.
Well, I think in the root of it, people pleasing is self-service. Okay. And then of service is you're really doing it with nothing in expectation in return. Right. And people might say, but here's a caveat. Okay. Here's a caveat. And I'll tell a story. Okay. I went on a men's journey, rites of passage, and I was there to help facilitate. And one of the brothers was there, and we were there helping for the weekend. And I remember after I asked him, I told you the story, but I'll say it a little bit differently. I asked him, "What did you think, man? What did you get out of this? Like, what did you get?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't get anything. I just wanted to give service to everybody." And I stopped him, and I go, "Have you heard of the law of reciprocity?" He's like, "What?" I go, "You can't give more than you're willing to receive." He's like, "Huh?" I go, "I'm sure you gave, but what if you had the power to receive, and these men saw you receive this love that you felt? Now you have double the ability to give." That's the difference. Of service means is you're willing to give and you're willing to receive. You're willing to give full service, but if you get the accolades, if you get the people like really saying thank you and gratitude, that you don't say, "Hey, no, it's okay. It's okay." You can't do that. You have to receive what you're willing to give. Because if you don't, then you stop the level of service. because now you're doing it. You're doing it for selfish reasons, as opposed. I know it seems backwards, but the more that you can do something of service to give, and then then you receive the outcome of like, oh my God, they were able to do this, and they were able to do this, and I saw this, and you tell stories about what you received. Now you can grow. That's how I view it. I view that people pleasing is, okay, if I do this, then they're going to do that. That's a form of manipulation. Like, for example, what I would do when we'll say when I was a kid, I remember vividly that when I came home, I had to make sure that I came home with loving arms. Hey, Dad, how are you doing? I didn't want to do that sometimes. But I did it because I didn't want to cause conflict in the house. But then I would go and I would do it and I would feel awful because I didn't feel good. It's kind of a bad example, but my point is if you do something because you're looking for a result for yourself, that is people pleasing. But if you're doing something really of service, not just to give service, but to give and then have the potential of receiving whatever accolades come your way, whatever service back to you, that's really giving of service. So for example, for me, when I'm coaching men, my gift is to give them my blueprint. But what I receive from them, sometimes I receive their negativity. Sometimes I receive, like Josh said, sometimes I receive F-bombs. Sometimes I absorb what I can so that I'm not just this brick wall, just give, give, give. I have to be able to receive what I'm giving. That's of service.
That's a really interesting point. I had never thought of it like that because at first I was like, that doesn't fucking make sense if I'm being but I was kind of going down the rabbit hole of it. Do you think that's why, like, something, just this quick little question I want to continue, like, why, like, Chick-fil-A, they'll be like, my pleasure versus no problem, like something as simple as that, where it's like no problem stops it from being received versus my pleasure like welcomes it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it like that. I'll have to dive more into that. Just what I'm thinking right now is just like it almost feels like you're stopping the energy if you don't receive it, and it can't flow back and forth. It's like when you try to dam something, or if you like stopping water, right, and you crash into it, it's going to crash back, and then the waves don't finish, and I'd never thought of something like that before. That's interesting.
You can't even refute it. It's a law. It's a law of reciprocity.
Interesting.
It's a law. You can't refute it. Just like the law of compensation. What you give is what you get. You can call it that way. What you give is what you get. Same thing, right? And I forgot the law with a name, but once you see something, you can't unsee it again.
Yeah.
So all these laws, they're real, but we don't apply them. We just talk about them. Just like gratitude, the law of gratitude. The law of gratitude, this is my version. The law of gratitude is this. You can't say you're grateful for something if you don't act on it, and then you don't have a result from that action.
What does that mean?
I'll give you an example. A lot of people say, I'm grateful for my cat.
Right.
Okay, did you feed your cat today? Did you show it love? Did you do the things that are showing that you're grateful for your cat? Or even sit there. I'll do another way. I'm grateful for my family. Okay? Did you have dinner with them today? Did you tell them you love them? Did you sit with them one by one and really hold them and just say, I love you, and spend time with them? Did you just sit and just listen? All these things we say, but we're not grateful for them. Gratitude has become a word.
Yeah.
No, gratitude is a verb. It's a verb. It's an action. I learned that in the book called The Magic. Gratitude is action. And is there a result? For example, that guy I make fun of that goes to the fucking gym every week, he's 300 pounds, hasn't lost weight in a year, he's giving consistency. That motherfucker is not grateful. You know why? He doesn't have the results to show for it. He's not grateful for what the gift he has to be getting up, go to the gym, and work out, because eating bonbons and he's fucking drinking beer, whatever he's doing, he's not showing gratitude. He's going through the motions. It's an extreme case, but that's how I view gratitude. That's why I wake up every morning early. That's why I do what I do. I'm grateful that I have this ninth life, dude. And so my attitudes change and my whole demeanor's changed toward you and your sisters and just life. There's no one that can never tell me this dude is not grateful for being alive. You can feel my gratitude. That's the difference. You people just say I'm grateful for my dog, for my cat, for my house. Are you? Are you showing it? That's what I mean by that.
Yeah, and it's very contagious too. I've noticed when you can show that, and I guess kind of relating it back to like the New Devils part of it. I think you talk about it all the time, where every day you wake up with the same stuff popping up, right? And so maybe that's the new devil. Maybe the old devil is still the new devil. Maybe that's what I'm kind of realizing now. Is like there's certain times when I even say like I'm grateful for something, and I don't always show for it directly, right? It's just something to kind of go through the motions, and it can make you feel like you're headed in the right direction a lot of times, And so I guess for someone like myself, where there's so much going on constantly. Like I've noticed in the last week, I can get really good at putting stuff on the calendar. I can get really good at just having good interactions with people, with friends. Doing stuff like this is very beneficial, but making sure I give the time for myself to actually feel and live and be grateful all the time it's hard. I feel like, because you don't always know if you're heading in the right direction, but you just have to have that that faith that you're inside, that you're still doing what you want to do and doing the stuff that you say you want to do. Does that make sense? Where like you kind of just, it's really easy to put your head down, and yeah, I feel like sometimes I go.
Do you know the difference? Do you know why you're struggling with this?
Don't know why. I think because it's easy to just do. And what's up?
You haven't set a non-negotiable for yourself. See, this is where I would get in arguments with discussions with my team that was on Threshold, is this idea of commitment versus a goal. One of the things that I miss being married is this commitment to my family that I had. Now, did I do it 100%? No. But when people talk about their marriage and I ask them, would you ever cheat on your wife? This client I'm working with, he's like, no. Why not? Well, God this and blah, blah, blah. No. Why wouldn't you cheat on your wife? Well, I love her. No. Wrong answer. Because I made a commitment to her. So if there's some hot chick, that's Googling you, are you going to give her? No, it's my wife. When you can apply your life to the things that are really important to you, that are non-negotiable, you won't have this wishy-washy way of thinking. You don't have, everything doesn't even non-negotiable, but maybe 3 or 4 things. So for example, I get up every morning at 2:45, non-negotiable. I get up every morning and I read, non-negotiable. I get up every morning and I journal, non-negotiable. I get up every morning and either I'm doing burpees, I'm going to the gym, I'm going for a run, non-negotiable. I eat a certain meal every morning, non-negotiable. You know what I'm talking about? It doesn't matter. I've done it at your house. I'll get up in the morning. It doesn't matter. I had to put these non-negotiables in place because if I let how I felt get in the way, or the environment, or being back east, or being at someone else's house, or being this at a hotel, and I let those variables dictate, then I would not be at the level that I'm at mentally. So whatever you're struggling with too much doing, break down. My invitation would be, what are 3 or 4 things that Albert has to do today? And you do it no matter what. You know what another non-negotiable is? I make my bed every morning, bro. Every morning. I've been doing that since August of 2020. Now I'm 52 years old. So you're saying you didn't make your bed the whole time? No, I never made my bed. But it's a non-negotiable for me. Like literally this morning, I was running late, took a shower. Nope, I have a routine. Take a shower, brush my teeth, make my bed. Same thing every morning. So that is what I'm referring to, is when you build up these little habits that are non-negotiable to you and only you, you'll have less. All that other stuff, you may make not some might make non-negotiable. You'll know how important they are. That's what I had to do. No, am I saying that I don't get aloof about things I said I'm going to do? Yes, because they're non-negotiable. I'm sorry, because they're goals. The things I want to intend to do. Mm-hmm. That's the difference, is identifying, just like running is non-negotiable when you do it, however often you do it. Every Wednesday night you run. It's non-negotiable. Whatever that is, just implement more of that into your life daily, that you need to do, that you have to do, that must get done no matter what. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that eliminates the devils too. Well, it doesn't eliminate it, but it makes approaching them a lot easier.
Amen. Because when you pause or you put it off another hour, that devil goes, we don't need to do this. The devil's even worse with me. He's like, I was sore as hell this morning. He's like, dude, just sleep in.
Yeah.
No, you're in your own bed, this comfy cloud bed. You don't need to get up. It's fucking dark outside. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't get any easier. It's just, you just have to come up with whatever your non-negotiables are. And by the way, but 99% of the people, they're going to nod their head in what I'm saying, but they ain't going to do it.
Yeah.
It's too easy not to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's almost, I don't know why we shake our head and just approve, like, yes, we're going to do it, because I'll do it too, you know? It's kind of interesting, like when you look at yourself 5 years ago, and just when someone says, hey, do you want to do this with me, and you shake your head yes, mm-hmm. but you know you're not going to do it. It's kind of funny. Like, why do we need to feel like we have to, just to feel validated a little bit?
People pleasing part, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Let me ask you this. I wanted to bring this up because I thought it was something to put a microscope on. You know, one of the reasons why this topic came up is because what's going on with you right now. You know, I was really intrigued because I think you're at a point really in your career where you have a huge opportunity to grow. I'm just curious, like, what's happening with your partner Clinton, and then some of the relationship stuff you're working through. What are some stuff are you finding about yourself that's revealing itself? That is a new devil or the old devil coming, and how are you responding to it, or what are you doing to help push through that temptation or whatever you're working through, specifically in your business first, and then maybe in your relationship?
Yeah, I think for me is I just noticed, like, when I put more free time on the calendar, I will alleviate it with nothingness as much. So I think for me, I've cut down on that a lot over the last 3 weeks. I wrote down some important things that were, I think I'm just more organized. I noticed, like, professionally, I just say no a little bit more. Mm-hmm. That's allowed for me to be okay with whatever's going to do, and then I don't overcommit myself. I think before, I'm really good at wanting to be involved in things, to feel included and feel loved, but I can do that in other ways. So, like, this is important to me. My men's group on Monday is important. Like you said, Run Club on Wednesdays is very important. And I have had that all year. And I think within the last month and a half, and then now with the recent events that happened, I think I'm accepting it as, like, these are important. So why am I treating it like a burden rather than like something that I'm actually into? If I'm not enjoying it, why am I doing it? You know? And I think that switch has allowed for me to realize and actually embody what gratitude, like what you're saying, be grateful and act on it as well. Because I think sometimes I would just kind of just trudge along and just put my head down because it felt good.
Yeah.
That was really helpful. I think too, the biggest thing that I've noticed is I'm really good at just closing off. Again, putting my head down when I need to. And I've been more vocal with my relationship. Clinton, personal relationship, I think with you, I've been a little bit more open with as well. And just putting it out there and not putting an emotion to it, but just letting it stick and not neutralizing it as well. Like I said, that's something that I've been really good at doing. Is if it feels like it's too happy, I'll push it down. If it's too sad or too low, I push it up, but not go past it. So I think I'm not neutralizing it, I'm just letting it and feeling it more. I've also implemented some practices in the last couple of weeks, doing breath work, doing more yoga and stretching. Been picking up jump rope. Just as quick cardio and movement, because you tell me all the time to do burpees. I don't like doing burpees. It's not fun. So at least jump rope, it's fun, but it's also a similar movement where I think there's something with jumping. I notice my body just literally moves up and down, and it helps with the flow more. So just picking up that competitive edge, and I've been playing more tennis because I miss playing basketball, but no one plays basketball unless you're at a gym here. So I was like, I need some competitive form. So again, picking things that I actually enjoy and not just doing it for the comfort has been really beneficial. And then bigger than that too, I think just owning up to it. Finally not faking it. You know, it's so easy. I got really good, and I started looking at my path of just relying on the talents again, just relying on my ability to just show up. I was watching Tim Grover. Do you know who he is? Yeah. For those who don't know, he's the coach or the trainer for Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. And he talks about showing up is actually no battle, that's an argument on its own, but you can't just show up if you want to perform and play in the real world, because everyone's showing up, and the people that aren't, we're not worried about anyways. So let's rewire that and be okay with showing up, but what do I actually want? And so that was a big shift for me this week of let's push ourselves a little bit more and see what the throttle is like. And I think I've been coasting a little bit more, from being honest, over 8 months or so. And it's showing in my professional and personal life as well.
Yeah. Well, think about this. So if I had your mindset at 26 years old, who knows, right? And so give yourself a lot of credit, because you're searching, you're curious, you're absorbing, you're taking, the new level, new devil for you is you're actually taking all these experiences that people have, I talked about last week, and you're really putting a magnifying glass on yourself. And you're looking at yourself, okay, so I'm here, I'm just taking care of myself, but someday I'm gonna have a family. How can I elevate or get myself better so that, and instill these volunteer stress in my life, right? Which is tennis, which is jump rope, whatever it is, yoga. And this volunteer stress is the real key to help you deal with life stress. And that's why I asked the question about how you're dealing with these new levels, because the busier you are, the more concentrated effort you've got. There's less room for boredom, which leads to vices. It's just the way it is. So the more busy you are, there's less room to think, down that fucking death spiral, and now you're really concentrating your time. And I think that's been a really instrumental in the growth I've had, is because I can tell you that I'm at my worst when I have too much time on my hands. I'm at my worst when I had because then I'm thinking about food or craving or this vice, that vice, and so then that's why I do what I do. That's why I work out 2 to 3 times a day, because that's my outlet. I could do other things, but when I do work out like I did it tonight, I ran 2 miles before our call, and I have a routine that I do for 10 minutes in my bathroom area with push-ups and burpees and all this other stuff. And that's my way of recalibrating myself. It's a way for me to get present and whatever you need to do. But that's a level of stress that I have to have for myself. And it inflicts this stress. I'm getting ready for the show. I'm getting ready to be present. I'm getting ready to be, it's my way of grounding myself. But I'm also feeling the stress of, this is hard. I don't want to do this. All that mind talk, that mind fuck we do. But I'm like, and My self-talk is like, there's no one doing this but me. I'm 52 years old. No one's going to pay the price like I made. Like, I'd rather pay the price of winning now than the bill of regret later. All these things. I have developed a way for me to not have to deal with outside forces like women or accolades or vices to help me, uplift me. And that's what you're doing. And I think it's beautiful, bro, because no one taught us this. You may learn from me and some other people but no one taught me how to fucking deal with stress. Taught me to deal with stress by drinking more. That's how they taught me. Or working more. Or being distracted more. No, that's not what you do. You do it by dealing with your own stress, by inflicting stress in your life, so when life comes at you, you're not gonna fucking just roll over and be a pussy about things. You're gonna like really deal with life stuff. So I think it's amazing, bro. I love what you're doing.
And it's I always credit it to you guys. I know I have to do the work, right? I respect myself. I think we have so much access to it now, and
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest. It still is hard for me at times. Is when you are self-employed, you have to find a way to do something for yourself, and also find a way to progress that forward. So you have to be searching, but you also have to be building on what you already have too. And that's the hard part, is figuring out how. I think that's a good topic we need to talk about too, is the exploration versus exploitation. I think I've talked about it with you before. You have to learn how to exploit, which I know it sounds bad, but you have to learn how to build off your strengths. And then you have to learn how to actually explore the right way. I mean, there's no right way to explore, but understand when you need to pivot. That's the hard part with explorations, because you can do it forever. That's the searching on the internet, researching forever, planning. But then you're not working and doing and applying and focusing on what your strengths are. And I think that was something that I love doing all the time, is doing that researching phase and exploring, because there's so much out there and there's so many interesting things that I get involved with and I want to learn more about. But then you end up just doing that forever, and you also have to maintain a lifestyle of like getting a living. You also have to figure out, like, am I just doing this for fun and pleasure? So I mean, that's the hard part about being youthful, is you have a lot of time, and so you can get trapped in there.
Yeah. So I think if you and I had that topic, I think we'd have a good debate about it, because I would debate you on it.
Okay.
I think you focus on your weakness. I think we focus on our strengths way too much. So think about this, is back in the day, weightlifting, it was only squats, power cleans, and bench. Everybody focused on their strengths, which was bench. They really found out that it was strength training. You had to do the deltoids, you had to do the hamstrings, you had to do the calf muscles. That's what built strength. It was the weakest part of your body. That's just one example. But for me, I use weakness as a way to where there's so many men, I'll talk about men, that have weaknesses. We know what they are, right? We know what they are. It's their thoughts, their energy, their actions, it's their vices. And if we focus so much on our strengths, I know a lot of millionaires who are fat, overweight, and they cheat on their wives. Okay? That is a weakness. They focus on their strengths because it gives them this elevation of this label. And when you focus on your strengths and you avoid your weaknesses, you can tell what people's weaknesses are. We'll talk about it another time. But I think I don't say I would disagree with you with exploiting your strengths, as long as you understand that you have to empower your weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You literally have to identify what those weaknesses are, because if you don't, you'll never cure alcoholism if you don't identify the 10 weaknesses that are contributing to your alcohol abuse. You'll never avert from continually living out of integrity if you don't know how to deal with those bad habits, those weaknesses that you have. And I'm adamant about it because I am a testament to what I had to do for me. And what I see other men doing is they focus on their strengths and not their weaknesses. And that's the mask that they have. That's the ego that they have, because they fall so much on their strengths. They're on this pedestal of strengths. They exploit their strengths, and they have a bag of fucking weaknesses that just pulls them down.
Yeah. I guess it kind of just describes in like how you look on your strengths and your weaknesses, right? If we're only going to talk about, I'm just thinking of the businessman that wants to only work, right? So you're using your ego to back it up a little bit for why you don't want to work on those weaknesses, right? And so let's say you neglect your family or your personal relationships, and all you want to do is work, right? As long as you find some sort of satisfaction in that, I don't necessarily see the evil in that per se. It's just more so of if if your role in this family is to also support them emotionally and physically, I think a lot of us should be that. But the hyper athletes, the hyper, like I'm sure the Elon Musk, the Michael Jordans, they excelled so well in their life that I'm sure at times they probably did have to neglect their family. And so I think that's a conversation that you probably just have to have with your family. That's not necessarily what I want. I don't know if they want to. So
Yeah.
I think we have to contextualize it a little bit. And then in terms of the weaknesses part of it,
Yeah.
I agree you need to like work on your weaknesses. That's the exploration part of it, you know?
Yeah. And I think that if you were to magnify those athletes, they're so, the cream is at the crop is so different. I think they are different, but
Yeah.
98% people aren't that. That's
Yeah.
what my is like. Yes, the cream of the crop, they are special, and can we be there? Yes, but 98% of the people, if they apply that in their life, that's what's holding them down.
Yeah.
But great conversation. I think we should
Yeah.
talk about it more.
Yeah, that'd be fun to explore. Just kind of question that pops up in my head right now. If there's one big devil that you're looking forward to looking at in 2025, what do you expect it to be? And
Yeah, I think it's this. I think it's this monster of relationship.
yeah,
Yeah, the relationship. I think we talked about being the martyr, and I explained what that meant. You asked me that question. I think I've had to sacrifice myself to become the man I needed to become, and I think part of that process is being alone, and part of that process is finding compatibility with somebody at a level more than 3 months, right? And really long term. And I think that's what the new devil is when that opportunity comes in a year or 2025 or whatnot, is how am I going to handle that devil?
with the new level that comes up with that, have you ever considered that isolating? And do you ever? I guess what do I want to say with this? I guess it's really easy to isolate
Yeah.
and take out not only the individual events but oneself to kind of figure out and learn about this, right? It's really nice at times too because we need our peace and quiet, you know, knowing me and you. How do you expect yourself to continue or get to a new level of sharing that vulnerability and accepting that interpersonal connectivity that you do admire and want to
Well,
have?
my buddy Sergio and I, we met up this past weekend, and he said something to me. He goes, "What I admire about you, Albert, is that because him and I have different styles of dating, and he says you put yourself out there, like you're willing to put yourself out there. That's been the big difference for me. The old version of me would have been like, no, let me be myself, which I was here and there, but you can't learn how to deal with people if you're not in relationship with people. So I've had to really, really put my big boy panties on and put them on and be vulnerable and not worry about an outcome that I can't control. I can't control what another person does. I can't control how I am. So who knows? We'll see. Another devil I got is, I want to really expand my ability to work with men and really take on a bigger role. And I have a lot of men resisting right now. There's a lot of men resisting. And part of that is that new devil within. I need to get better at communicating. I need to get better. I need to find a way. I haven't found a way, that missing link. I haven't found a way to absolutely connect with people. That's the devil I'm working with. I'm working with this devil of how can I connect more with more men so that they're not intimidated. They don't feel like they can't. There's something about me still that people are still being repelled with. I feel it. The new devil is breaking through that and really seeing men gravitate to me because they see what I'm doing is going to help them. Right now, there's a barrier that's still getting in the way that I haven't figured out.
I have no idea what you do in your day to day in the conversations, but you always ask me to ask, or at least not always, but one of the things that you helped me with really early on in connecting with any relationship was asking what they need.
Yeah.
Do you I know your style of coaching to a degree, and I've asked other people, but have you asked them what they need and what they're looking for out of this? Is
Yeah,
that a key part of your
100%.
conversation? Yeah.
Yeah. It's just more of a, I think I'm fishing in the wrong pond, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I need to find the pond where the fish are at that are going to get. So I have to find
Yeah.
the right pond.
Well,
That's how
if you're looking for bass and you're in a lake full of catfish,
it's going to work. Yeah. What about you? What are you looking for? What devils in 2025 are you going to navigate through, or you're looking to get in conflict with?
I've been thinking about that this week actually a lot. I think it's going to resonate very similar to 2022, where I dive deeper. Um, I think I'm so close, but that closeness is really far. In terms of my emotional intelligence, I think there's one more gap that I'm still avoiding. Um, I think it's going to be very, very similar to 2022, where I read, I think it was that year I read a lot of books. Next year, this year I didn't really read a lot. I wanted to just apply. Um, I want to get back to reading and analyzing what I'm doing, and just putting myself out there more with relationships, building with, um, just just doubling down on what we're doing. I think what we have is really powerful too, because I want to learn how to be more vulnerable a little bit more and feel more connectivity with that without over expending my energy. So I think I want to be more energy efficient.
Hmm?
If that makes sense this year, and that's going to be very uncomfortable.
And my invitation is to you is go back to the law of reciprocity. Are you
Yeah,
willing to?
yeah,
That's a big one, bro. You're going to sit with that one. So I remember when I was talking with Daniel about that, he looked at me. He's like, I never thought about that.
mm,
That receiving part is crucial. I'll share this before we leave. Did I tell you that exercise I had to do when I was in that coaching program where we had to ask someone to buy us food, buy us something?
yeah,
So
yeah.
real quickly, there was an assignment we had, and this really this changed my view of what this really means. The assignment was to walk up to a stranger and ask them to buy you something worth $25. So we had a week to do it. And we had our group, we had a talk on Monday, and then we had a talk on Thursday, and then we had to come back on Monday and talk about our results. And we had Marco Polo, and we are kind of sharing, and I was terrified because it just reminded me of just like, God, I'm $25 worth. I have to ask someone. And everybody had their stories, and women were like, yeah, I approached this man, he wanted to date me. Like, so everybody's stories are coming in, the fears are coming in about why they can't do it, or they tried it and felt like a salesman, blah, 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 right? So I'm at the airport. I remember vividly. I'm at the airport flying to LA to actually see you. And I'm in line, and I'm just, what am I going to do? So I'm in line and ask this person behind me, what's up, Kay? And I go, hey, would you mind buying me this? And she's like, no. I'm like, fuck. Okay. Because I just was acting, I looked weird. It's like, fuck. So I'm gonna get on, go get coffee and do my thing. And so I'm in line, and this guy behind me, I go, hey, bro, look, this is just weird. Trust me, I'm out of left field. I got this assignment. I'm in this coaching program, and I got this bagel and this coffee, and it looks like it's about $25. And I'm supposed to ask you, would you mind buying this for me? It's about $25. Would you mind buying it for me? And he's like, sure. And I go, really? He's like, yeah, bro. Tell me more about what you're doing. And what I learned about that is, so he bought it for me, and then it was interesting because he started asking me all these questions. He was very curious about me. He was intrigued. So what I learned is I got to receive the gift of asking and him saying yes, but I got to give him the
Mm,
gift of what I was doing and how I was growing and who I was. I showed him a picture. So see how that works? I just learned so much of give and receive. And the purpose of that is, of the 10 people in our group, only 6 of us did it.
wow.
6 of us got the gift of understanding. The other 4 were terrified. What I learned from that is there is a gift of receiving, but most of us will say, hey, if there's a donation, I'll give you $10 no matter what. I got you. But are you willing to go ask someone for $10?
Mm.
It's a little different. See how this mind switches, because now we're thinking, am I worthy? See what just happened? Am I worthy enough? Why I'm asking? All the negative voices come, and the idea was to learn how to deal. When you say, I'll give, you have no problem because maybe you're people pleaser. Oh yeah, I'll be the first in line. But are you willing to receive $10 and go ask for it? That's a different level of surrender. So all these concepts I've learned about surrender and ego and letting go and reciprocity, I learned through some of these processes I'm in.
Asking for help, man. That's
Right?
that might be the next phase.
But you see the power of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, asking for help. That's a form of asking for receiving something. But you'll give help, but will you ask for it? And that level is another new devil.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll get back to you next week.
Okay.
I'll do something.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll do something this week and figure out. Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to you tomorrow about that. I want to figure out, because that's powerful. I think for me that's the hardest thing, asking for help. I would rather just do it myself a lot of the times too. Or if it's like it feels like it's a 1-to-1 transaction, I don't mind asking for that. But when it feels like it's 0-to-1, it's still 1-to-1, but we just change it. That's really hard. So that's a really cool story. I didn't realize only 6 of you did it. Yeah.
Okay.
Is Kate on?
He's on. Yep.
Oh, what's up? Okay. Glad you're safe. But yeah, that was a really fun episode. I think for me, just that last part is honestly the biggest thing, is just being able to receive it. That didn't really feel like it would apply, but the more I think about it in my life, it's been really beneficial. We always talk about service being, I have to give something, but when you also receive something as well, a lot of times people want to actually help, like when they give a gift to you and like you aren't expecting it, it gives them a lot of joy as well. So yeah, that's powerful.
I would be curious to take that back to your group next week, and then I'd love to find out what they say.
Yeah.
Just to bring that back, because I think that's powerful, man. Because again, nothing we're doing is wrong, but just it's a different view of it, because it's only half of it. Giving is half. The service level of service we're talking about is giving, but are willing.
Because taking it, because I usually say give and take, but it's almost give and ask, and receiving is part of it, right? But it's receive/ask, or maybe receive and ask are two separate things.
But it's part of the same project, the law of reciprocity. We're willing to give, but in that energy, you have to be able to accept and receive the same energy, or it doesn't work. It does, but maybe in half. But you don't get the full scope of it.
I wonder if there's something to do with also, I'm just thinking out loud, where I'm just thinking that when I work out with some people and they want to like give that energy, but then if you give it back, they can't receive it too, and it's like, what the fuck?
That's a great example, and we can leave it on that. We can leave it on that, because that's a great example.
Yeah, so that was a good one. Thank you so much for bringing that to us. I know you've been wanting to talk about that for a while, so that was a fun little episode. Do you have anything that you want to take away from before we wrap it up?
Yeah, it's the same stuff, bro. I just love talking with you. Kaylee's on here. Kaylee's safe. Kaylee's in Georgia right now, so I'm glad you're safe, honey. And just to be able to do this with you every week, and now you learn something about you again today, like just that little gift of receiving versus giving. And I saw that curiosity in you, so it's really cool for me again to share, because it part of me gets to now look inside of me and, okay, what am I still not receiving, right? So just be able to talk with this and be very free flowing. So I got the medicine I needed for tonight, which is a reminder of the law of reciprocity. Just give and take.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'm going to implement it this week, and I'll share it with you.
Man.
Everyone, thank you so much. Kaylee, I love you so much. Glad you're safe and sound. Everyone that was watching, we appreciate you. And if you have any questions, comments, things that you want to explore, you can drop it down in the comments, or come on to us with us every Tuesday at 6:30 PST and drop them below live. We would love to answer them for you. And in case you missed it, working on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube at The Legacy Project. I'm Albert, and this is my dad, Albert Chavez, and we are signing off.
Peace out.